welcome back once again to the Student Pages podcast. I am once again Grace Sanders, your host, but most importantly, I am joined by incredible actor Arlen Escarpeta today. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm doing great. I'm loving the poster behind your head. What is that all about?
Oh boy, so I live in a great place where people give away free things all the time. I actually got this one walking downstairs to take out the trash, and someone was removing it from their place, and I said that sounds great, and they said it's free 99. So it got back in the elevator with me, and now it's up on the wall.
Fantastic. I'm not going to lie, on the streets of London, if you're seeing something on the side of the road, it's because it's meant to be there. You do not want to pick things up. But we have more important things to talk about. I wanted to take it all the way back to the start of your career, because you've had quite an interesting career. But I wanted to get to know a little bit more about what got you so interested in being on the big screen.
Oh boy, what got me into acting? Plain and simple, it made me feel good about myself. I found my confidence and my voice and this thing. I found it in acting by accident. I was in elementary school. I was picked to play the lead part in a Shakespearean play in Hamlet. Our teacher didn't let us audition. She picked who was going to play what. I thought I could get away with doing something smaller. I did not think I could do this thing called acting. I had no idea what it was. I don't even know if I did a good job, to be honest with you. But I do know that once I finally got on stage and I performed everything, I did something that I didn't think that I could do. And that made me just feel so strong about myself that I told my mom literally after that performance, I would like to do more of this. And she was like, "What? Really?" So maybe I didn't do a good job, but nonetheless, here we are.
Did you say elementary school as well? Because Hamlet is like 4 hours long.
I'm fairly certain it was the watered down elementary version, but the to be or not to be monologue was absolutely in there for sure. I still remember most of it. I remember the sword fight with Laertes. I remember we had the whole thing. I don't know. I wasn't a gifted magnet program, so maybe they're like, give them this and they can get here. Who knows? But nonetheless, it was great. It got me to where I am.
And moving on from Shakespeare as well, from those early days, you kind of found your little bit of a niche for a while as a scream queen, I believe, appearing in things like Friday the 13th and Final Destination.
Oh man, so I've been very fortunate and very, very lucky. So when I got into Friday the 13th, that literally was the floodgates. I met some amazing producers in Brad Fuller and Andrew Forum who work at Platinum Dunes. Getting to Friday the 13th introduced me to two other gentlemen at New Line Cinema, which then got me into Final Destination 5, which then got me into, I had a small part in one of the Annabelle movies where they just called me one day and was like, "Hey, are you available? We're hanging out, we got this small..." And so I went and did this thing for them. And then that got me into The Storm. And it was just a snowball effect of just meeting the right people, booking the right jobs. But yes, Friday the 13th and FD5, I love horror already. So it was great for me.
I was going to say, I think horror is definitely often overlooked, especially in like award categories. But we're seeing like studios like A24 become so niche with their production of horror that it's kind of always had a cult following, but it's now becoming bigger and bigger.
All I heard was that you just said that I need to work with Guillermo del Toro, and you're 100% correct. You are right. Without unequivocally, yes, you are correct. Yeah, horror it's fun when it wants to be fun. And the good thing about horror, you can enjoy it at any budget, like a big budget, a lower budget, a mid budget. When it's done well, it's done well. It doesn't matter the cost or, what it looks like on screen, just as long as the audience feels something.
Absolutely. Usually fear in an ideal sense. You just touched upon there Guillermo del Toro, which I'm assuming is one of your idols. Given your sort of like background in horror, would that be your like a favored character role to move forward and a favored director to move forward with?
Honestly, I'm looking forward to working with directors, producers, or jobs that push the envelope. When you talk about a Guillermo del Toro, a Quentin Tarantino, a Jordan Peele, let me think, a Misha Green, a James Samuel, a Samuel Jackson. I'm trying to think who else, like a Donald Glover. There are certain people that can take what is considered a basic genre and turn it into something completely different, whether it be a classic that's winning awards or like, like a pop classic that, like the people just love, or something that you just can't get out of your head. Those are the type of jobs that I look forward to. Those are the type of people that I want to work with. And even now being unfound on TV, I'm getting that exact same thing. I'm working with a phenomenal creator that is Nkechi O'Carroll. I have a great cast, and we're doing something that, even though it's network TV, is so much more.
You've led me nicely into our little segue into Founder, which I believe is currently going through its second season of filming after an incredible first season. Now, Found is sort of like 1 foot in thriller, 1 foot in like procedural TV series. And how has that like transition been from movies to serialization?
It's been an easy transition for me because I started in TV. TV was where my big break that I got was on TV, and it was on NBC. As a matter of fact, I did a show called American Dreams on NBC. That was my first series regular. So that was my first taste of like real full-length TV. It was a special time in TV for me, at least, because there were certain shows that I was watching on TV, and now I was being included in those blocks of hours on TV. So that was special for me. So now being back, the transition was easy. It's something that I love to do. I love the fact that even though in movies, as much as I love it, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The movie ends unless it's a continuation, obviously. But in TV, that's 22 episodes. That's a character that gets to grow over so many hours, that the audience you get to tell so much more story, either whether you're doing flashbacks, present time, future time. And so with that being said, for an actor, you got a full plate of things to play with.
On your character, Zeke Wallace, do you see any sort of like similarity between you and him? Do you not want to see any similarities between yourselves now that you've explored the character further?
Honestly, I think Zeke and I are very much in the same vein. Zeke has an emptiness about him that is his trauma that he carries. I personally always carry a tiny little bit of emptiness with me. I'm a very happy-go-lucky person, but I'm very much in touch with the sad part of myself too. And that's something that, obviously you learn through therapy, to not push certain parts of yourself away, but instead embrace it for what it is, understand why it's there, and know how to utilize it. I use it within my work. I use it for peace of mind. There's times where, like Zeke, I need to be by myself and have a quiet moment and just be. And then there's other times where I need the noise and the people and the energy and all those other things. And none of them is right or wrong. It depends on what I need that day. So playing Zeke, we're very much the same in that sense, where what Zeke needs on Monday may not be what he needs on Tuesday.
It's so good that you're receptive as that as well, not just being able to jump in and out as a character, but also as an actor behind the scenes with auditions. And I get upset at 9-to-5 office job interviews. Never mind having a fully blown audition where you have this entire process of coming back and going in and screen test. Do you test well with this person? How do you get your head around that?
You know what, for me, I learned early on to enjoy that process. It was never one that I shied away from. I actually, number one, I love competition. I'm a weekend warrior, flag football and all that other good stuff. So competition is always a good thing. I think it does bring out the best in me. At the same time, I recognize, and I think a lot of actors have come to say this now, that's your time. An audition, yes, it's an audition, but you got to have the mindset of, this is my moment, my time, my choice. I will show you what I can do with this character in this moment. And you got to be as dynamic and as bold and as brave as you can. So that way they can either bring you back to where you need to be, or be so amazed by what you did that you've either booked the job, you've booked the room, or in the least, you've made them say, I like him. Maybe not for this, but for something else. And I booked jobs just like that, where I've come in to read for something else. Didn't get that job, and I get the call, he wasn't great for this, but we love him for this thing that's coming later on. And, so, make it yours, and go from there.
Honestly, it's like a motivational podcast we're doing now.
Here's the thing. You say motivational, it's tricking your mind. Mm-hmm. Acting and what we do, there's so many no's. There's so many not enough. not tall enough, not the right this, not the right that. And that's par for the course. And so any moment when you get to just be in that character, in that moment, you got to take it. You got to take it for sure.
Honestly, I know we're veering off topic here, but have you watched the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders documentary on Netflix?
No, tell me. So
They have exactly the same sort of motto, and it's literally just maybe 4 or 5 episodes of them
really?
choosing these girls and just going, no, she's too blonde, no,
Oh,
she's too
wow.
this. And I was like, oh goodness, I bet you really got to take it
Here's the
personally.
thing. What's funny is that I used to be a Cowboys fan. I've retired the Cowboys.
Okay.
So now I can watch the NFL with no judgment. I just like football. So it's interesting. I might have to go back and watch this, but I've literally programmed myself from not being a Cowboys fan only because they let me down too many times.
Oh, was it just a loss reason? Did you just have to drift away? I think many men could use this
Yes,
mindset.
it was a lot. Or when and if they do get back to where they used to be, maybe I was the bad guy. Maybe it was me making the bad. So either way, I'm staying on the outside. Yeah, tell that.
We've had like the beginning of the Premier League starting in the UK. I don't know how much you know about what you'd call
Oh
soccer.
yeah, absolutely.
Week in, week out, having your entire emotions decided by 11 blokes on a pitch.
Oh man, I don't even play fantasy football. Like I tell people that ask me, do I ever want to play? I say if I can't in person manipulate the score, meaning if I'm not on the field catching a pass or no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't want no parts.
Exactly the opposite. I literally just throw people in based upon whose names I like, and I think, oh, if I have too many blue jerseys, I'll put a couple of reds in. And annoyingly, I do end up doing a lot better than the people who do
Oh,
calculate
really?
it.
See, then you got to. There's method to the madness.
Oh dear me. Now, moving back away from sports because we will literally be here all day. I wanted to ask you a little bit more. Now we've been speaking about Found, but have you got anything else in the pipeline that you'd like to tell our listeners about, or anything else you're looking forward to right now?
Yes. So we spoke earlier about horror, and I actually have a really amazing short film called Newlyweds Blood at the Altar. Produced it along with some amazing producers, writers, and creators called 89 Writers. I worked with them on another show I worked on called David Makes Man, Lucian and Bird. And we created something really cool, that is a twist on what you've come to learn and know from the world of zombies. It takes place in down South Florida, and it stars a couple who are newly married, and they're basically fighting for their love / their life. And we go from there. And it's a proof of concept short to hopefully bleed out into something bigger and better. And so now we're starting the film festival circuit and, getting ready to show it to the world.
Oh, fantastic. And have you taken a production role in this, or are you in front of the camera?
Oh, both. Acting in it along with my fiance, and we're also producers on it. And I'll use the word producer lightly because we learned more than anything. Us as producers, I think we were utilized more for our background in acting and our professionalism there and what we could bring to the project from that standpoint. Also, we were heavily involved in the casting process. So that was interesting to be behind the camera and help pick and choose and see what pieces fit, which is interesting because you're picking to see who fits with you on screen. And it wasn't always just about, what someone looks like. Sometimes it was just about an energy or who's available, who's local, who fits the budget. All of those things came into play, and then you kind of got to make it make sense from there. But I can happily say that all of the right people got the job. Extremely proud of the project, and it was something that I left with more than I came.
Now, that's so incredible to hear that you've kind of dual wielded being both in front and behind, and also working on a newlyweds project with your fiance in which zombies take over the world is far too tempting fate to me. If you guys get married and it all goes downhill with zombie apocalypse, I'm gonna be calling you up and blaming you.
In the least, you might be able to get maybe like a thriller dance routine at the end of the vows or something. In the least we can give you that.
So do you see yourself moving more into a production role as well now that you kind of had this experience?
I'm not going to say more into a production role, but definitely it's something that I'll definitely be trying to, balance both worlds. But I love acting so much. I'm definitely not at a place for me to say, okay, I've done what I needed to do in acting. I'm just going to focus here. And I think we see a lot of actors doing that now, going into, the world of directing, writing, producing, and retiring from being in front of the camera. I very much still love being in front of the camera, but I'm learning so much on the other side as well too. That process of creating something from in your brain, from pencil or pen to paper to computer to pages of paper, to now here we are shooting. That process is one that is so fulfilling. So yeah, I'm probably gonna end up doing both more often than not.
And now, as a final question, since this is the Student Pages podcast, we've had a lot of motivational talk from you today about mindset, about growth, about rejection. But if you had any snippets of advice, student actors, producers, anything around the silver screen, or in fact, our tiny screens that we have at home for TV, what advice would you give them?
I think my advice for anybody as a creative or in general in life, I think for me, my safety net has been taking care of my inner child, and you have to figure out what that means. I go to sleep to cartoons. I wake up to cartoons. This past weekend, I was at Dragon Con in Atlanta, and I met all of the original voices of the Ninja Turtles. I was in heaven. That's my inner child, and I make sure that inner child is taken care of, so that way when the adult stuff that I'm doing and life starts lifing, as they say it, I got good balance, and I'm okay. And I feel right about here. I'm not up here and I'm not down here. I'm right about here. So if anything, I will say do that and just find something that gets you and people that get you and love you and care about you, and then just, have fun.
Honestly, I've never heard that piece of advice before, but it makes so much sense. And I would love to ask you about the icons that are the Ninja Turtles, but just to touch a little bit on the cartoons that you mentioned, do you have any specific favorite animations?
This is a dangerous question. We're going to be on for a while now. Let me see, there's Transformers, there's Thundercats, there's He-Man, there's Ninja Turtles, Smurfs, Tailspin, Rescue Rangers, Gummy Bears, Care Bears, Pippi Longstocking, Teen Wolf, Super Mario Brothers cartoon. I can keep going. I love TV even as a kid. And as a kid, it's obviously cartoons first before anything. As I've gotten older, I love TV and it's become series and movies and so forth. But I feel like I've always been plugged into this thing, this TV, the screen, the big, the small. So for me, my Rolodex of what really gets me is TV and film for sure, whether it be cartoons as a little kid, TV series for me now as an adult, or movies now as an adult as well.
It's been absolutely lovely to speak to you, Arlen. I wish you luck with the filming of the second season of Found, as well as your submissions to various film festivals for your upcoming film. I really want to say Newlywed Found Blood.
Newlyweds, Blood at the Altar.
Newlyweds, Blood at the Altar. Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Arlen. It's been wonderful to speak to you.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
And a huge thank you to our sponsors at Smart Buy Glasses. Smart Buy Glasses prides itself on providing unbeatable range, expert advice from its certified opticians, and world-class support from its customer experience team. So put your best face forward as you head back onto campus with eyewear designed for lectures and leisure. Check out the link below and use the discount code StudentPages10 for exclusive student discounts off frames and lenses.